here we see the women flying down this descent.
A little bit of separation there, maybe about 10 or 11 riders there kind of strung out with a gap. It looks to be Cecily Decker once again. Just
full tuck.
Yeah, she clearly likes to take on the wind and do a little driving of the train there.
Yeah, Cecily, obviously we saw a fantastic ride, just a solid ride from her at Unbound. She was off the front for quite a while with her teammate Carolina Migon, and in the end, Cecily ended up finishing second on the day, and she's one of the riders today, as you can see, who opted to go for the drop bars. She was at the Leadville stage race, gave her setup a good test there, said she felt really comfortable with that setup, and clearly it's is boding well for her, working well for her right now on these descents and on this pavement at least, and we'll see how the rest of the day goes on the more technical, chunky, rocky descents like Powerline and then coming back down from Columbine.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of want to go back again and just, about that handlebar. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think it's really worth continuing to discuss, and I think it's so important to understand what you're good at and what you're not, because riders think they're going to go a little bit faster on some of these sections on the drop bars, but if you're just not a super comfortable descender, or your skill set maybe needs a little bit of refinement, the potential for loss is going to be so great out there when they get to that descent on Powerline, because it is. If you've not been there, it is unbelievably steep, and because of the weather, like 95% of the course is in probably the best shape it's been in a long time, right? Like, it's really packed in. The amount of rain versus dry weather has been perfect balance. But that rain that we have had has kind of, exposed a little more of those rocks and stuff on the descent. It's caused some little water channels that don't necessarily run in line with the descent. They kind of run across, and some little gullies here and there, and while it's certainly hard pack underneath the top, it's like marbles on the top.
It's loose over hard.
Yeah.
And riding that descent yesterday was my first time really riding a bike in Leadville. I've been out here a couple other times, but first time riding a bike in Leadville, so doing the Sugarloaf climb and then that Powerline descent. I could not believe at the people who have chosen to use the drop bars on that descent. You're crisscrossing the whole way down. You're navigating the little ruts, the water bars, the rocks. Here we see Haley Smith full tuck here, and also you can tell that she doesn't have a dropper post on. So that's another thing that these athletes have had to choose today. Really, what they're going for is the aero. One of the things that they're looking at is the aero front end, the drop bars, and then also weight. So all the choices that they're making on their bikes today have a lot to do with weight. So riders have chosen to go just high post instead of a dropper post to save weight. You don't really need the dropper post on this course today. Granted, being able to drop the post helps you get into a even, smaller tuck on some of these descents, but it's really not necessary. So you kind of see a little bit of both out there today. Also, you're seeing, a difference between people who have chosen a hardtail or a full suspension bike. That also plays into what tires they're running, 225s, 24s. Are they going 2.4 because they're, running the drop bars and a hardtail, so they want a little more volume in the tires for better control, less risk also on the chunky, rocky stuff, just with a higher volume tire? Are they going, 2.2s, 2.25, something